I wonder on some level whether Tim Tebow is ever going to be able to play at a high level at tight end at the age of 33, coming off of playing baseball for several years, doing something, by the way, at tight end that people had told him he should do for years and that he refused to do because he was a quarterback in his mind. I wonder how much of this, and this is my thesis on what's going on with the idea of Tim Tebow going to Jacksonville, I think this is about Urban Meyer sending a message to the Jacksonville Jaguars using Tim Tebow as a cultural force in the locker room where you know there are going to be a lot of young people. 33 years old in an NFL locker room is old, man. There are not very many 33-year-old players performing at a high level. But if you are Urban Meyer and you know that the future of your team in many ways is directly tied to Trevor Lawrence, and you want to set the best possible culture in that locker room with all of the young guys that you are bringing in, and I do think Urban Meyer will skew young, and one reason I think he'll skew young is he knows a lot of the young players from having recruited them when he was at Ohio State, but also because young players are less set in their way, and they're more likely to listen to what their coach is telling them. And so I think as this is all breaking down, and everybody is looking at the larger context of what Tim Tebow is going to represent for Jacksonville, I think he'll make the team. I don't know how much of an impact he will have on the field on a day-to-day basis, but I think this is a play by Urban Meyer from a cultural perspective to set the trend as he believes that trend should be set in the days, the weeks, the months ahead. And he is going back in time and remembering everything that happened and all that was set up when Tim Tebow was playing with the Florida Gators, and that he believes that Tebow will be a cultural force and an impact for good in his locker room in the early part of his tenure when Urban Meyer is the overall culture of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It also wouldn't stun me if Tebow, because of him being such a ridiculous athlete, is able to make some plays, particularly in goal line situations, with his quarterback. Wouldn't stun me either if there's some plays where they put Tim Tebow, for instance, in motion and out of tight end, flip it to him in short yardage back plays. Tim Tebow is one of the best guys I've ever seen at getting a yard where he needs to get a yard or two that I've ever seen as a runner. Just taking the punishment that can be delivered by all those different NFL linebackers, all those different NFL defensive linemen. Tebow almost never went backwards in short yardage situations. I wonder whether Urban Meyer might find a way to use him in that form or fashion as well. But I am excited about what Tebow is going to be able to do in his return, presuming that he makes the team in the NFL. And you look around and think, man, you know what? What is it going to look like in that first game? Look, this is an awful game, right? To me, Jacksonville's going on the road against Houston. I think there's a very good chance that Trevor Lawrence and the Jags win that game and that Tebow can play and make a play that matters in some sort of significant way against the Houston Texans, because I think what's going to happen is Urban Meyer is going to want to have a reason to justify Tim Tebow being on the team, and I think there will be a play. Maybe it's a jump pass. Maybe it is a trick play snap to Tebow. Maybe it's just in a goal line situation, Tebow gets open and catches a touchdown pass, 2-point conversion, something like that down close. I think Urban is going to want to make it clear that in his mind this is not a stunt, and there will be in some form or fashion a play made by Tim Tebow in that opener against the Houston Texans. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars get the win in that game, and I believe that Trevor Lawrence starts with a win in his first NFL game. You think about the mess that is the Texans. We talked about this in the last segment, kind of breaking down week one. Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills, no way Deshaun Watson is playing in that opening game of the season. I don't think Deshaun Watson's ever going to play for the Houston Texans again. So this is a ripe opportunity for the Houston Texans to be able to come going up against the Houston Texans for Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow, Trevor Lawrence, for that brain trust, so to speak, the culture that Urban Meyer is building for something to happen in a really positive way for the Jags. If I'm Urban Meyer, I'm like, well, we're starting 1-0. There's no way that we are losing to the Houston Texans, Tyrod Taylor and or Davis Mills, whoever is the starting quarterback in that situation. This is the best possible opener, in my opinion, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, for Tim Tebow, who I believe will be on that sideline with Urban Meyer. This is going to be a fun story to follow. Tebow, we were just talking about him, potentially with the Jags. Will Cain hanging out with us to close out the Thursday edition of the program. We know that Trevor Lawrence is going to start, and one of the guys that may be starting alongside of him is Tim Tebow. How intrigued are you by the idea of Tim Tebow, 33-year-old tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, individually, probably not as intrigued as everyone else. I'm intrigued more than some other, third, fourth string tight end that they signed. Is it enough to make me go, wow, I'm paying attention to Jags training camp? No. But if he makes the team, yes, I'm much more interested in the Jags. Of course, Clay, I'm intrigued by the ridiculous overreaction to the Jags giving Tim Tebow a shot. That is
Yes. Why do you think that everything about Tim Tebow, except probably Tim Tebow himself, has been on steroids since he was a freshman at Florida, right? And I've seen this since he was 18 years old, the mania that he creates and has dealt with all the way through. In fact, we get used to seeing athletes and we get used to seeing celebrities in what we do. I have never seen anything like when Tim Tebow was on Radio Row, right? Beyonce, Madonna, they all come through Radio Row at some point in time. But you feel as if there is true electricity in the air relatively rarely. Tebow being on Radio Row the year after, I believe it was, that he won the postseason game with the Broncos against the Steelers, hit Demaryius Thomas on that crossing route in overtime to win that game. I've never seen anything like it. The same thing had happened, by the way, at SEC Media Days when Tebow was in the building, when everybody was losing their minds. And look, you're used to Nick Sabans of the world, Cam Newton, Joe Burrow. There's lots of big names, Johnny Manziel. I've never seen a reaction, a frenzy like Tebow produces in the world of sports.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons. And the first two reasons create lovers and create haters. So for whatever reason, wearing your religion on your sleeve creates haters, but it also creates lovers. I have nephews that grew up in Odessa, Texas. My sons weren't born yet really to root for Tim Tebow, and they loved him because he was honest and open about his Christianity. Yep. It's odd. I don't totally get it, but that's clearly one of the motivating factors behind why people hate him. It just is. And I can't really explain it. The other, number two, is this sort of wholesome image, independent of Christianity. People don't like wholesome. They like bad boys. The Cowboys draft, we were talking about Cowboys schedule, but the Cowboys draft, they took a ton of character concerns. And I tweeted about that, wow, the Jason Garrett days of, Jason Garrett used to use the phrase, right kind of guy. Those days are over. And I had a ton of people go who cares? We were good in the 90s when we had bad guys. And what are you? We're not trying to put together choir guys. But those same people, they'll be destroying the Cowboys for drafting these guys if they get suspended.
Oh,
right?
Of course, yes.
So I don't really know, but there's an attraction to the bad boy and not the good guy that Tim Tebow is from a lot of fans. And then I think his pro career, you talk about after the Broncos win, that's against all odds, against the doubter story, and that's going to make people love and hate you as well. He wasn't supposed to be this good. Everybody's been dogging him. And then finally it's race. The reaction the last 2 days has been 100% about race. His career and his reputation over his life has been about his religion, but the last 2 days, that's been about race. And that's just, the bottom line, Clay, is this. On the people that are mad at Tim Tebow for getting an opportunity because he's white are racist. They just don't see the world through anything but a lens of skin color. That's just how they do it. And at this point, we're going to have to start accepting that's who they are. They are racists, and we need to start calling them out for what they are, racists.
Well, for a long time, and you know this, there are relatively few athletes you could say that athlete's name is and just say open phone lines and anybody could come in and everybody would have an opinion. Tim Tebow is one of those guys. LeBron James is one of those guys. Probably over time, Tom Brady has turned into one of those guys. Johnny Manziel used to be one of those guys. A lot of these guys are very polarizing, but most of them have a reason for you to dislike them, right? Like they've done something. Your point on Tebow is so well said. Like the guy is basically without flaw, yet that same persona makes him incredibly polarizing. I'm using as an example Johnny Manziel, both SEC quarterbacks. Johnny Manziel, before we knew whether or not he was going to be a success in the NFL, everybody had a strong opinion of him, right? But Johnny Manziel had done a lot of things where you could be like, okay, I love this dude, I hate this guy. LeBron James, everybody has an opinion on him. He's done a lot of things. Tiger Woods was another guy like that just moved the needle, right? Everybody had an opinion. Right. Really, Tebow has never done anything. Like, what's the worst thing you can say that Tim Tebow's ever done? I'm not even sure we can come up with a reason that bad thing that Tim Tebow's ever done in the public eye.
No, and then therefore the reaction, Tim Tebow's like a Rorschach test,
yes.
The ink blot test. You see in it what you want to see in it, and the truth is your reaction to Tim Tebow says more about you than it says about him. You are revealing who you are in your reaction to Tebow. I truly believe that. And by the way, I love your examples, and if you didn't use Woods, I was going to bring up Woods, and then, of course, in the sort of pre-viral age, Michael Jordan. And with Jordan and Woods, they were hot topics, phone lines light up, without really being controversial. I'm talking about before Woods' sex scandals.
Yeah.
It was more just about who he was as a golfer, and people could listen or talk about Tiger all day just based upon his greatness, not unlike Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's just that's what I've always found so amazing about the Tebow experience, because coming out of college, there have been the SEC for college football in particular can make big seismic stars, right? Particularly as the teams have gotten more and more dominant. And so you can run through guys. I mean, you're a Texas Longhorn guy, but Vince Young was an example of one of these guys that came into the NFL with a massive legacy with him. But the Cam Newtons, the Tim Tebows, the Johnny Manziels, a little bit of the Joe Burrows, guys who just had such transcendent seasons or such iconic plays that they sort of entered into the league with a legendary mantle attached to them. And I've never seen anything like the amount of people who just rooted desperately against Tebow. And there certainly are a lot of people that root for him, but to me it's always a lot easier to understand why a guy can have fans than why a guy can have haters. And the Tebow hate has just never made sense to me.
No, it really.
I mean, if you had a daughter and she married Tim Tebow, or if you had a son and he grew up like Tim Tebow, I think almost every single person listening to us would be like, yeah, I'd be pretty happy about the way that I had parented. And I've gotten to know Tebow quite a bit, just kind of casually over the years since that. And he doesn't seem to me to be an artificial guy. Like, he just kind of is the person in his public life. It seems to me very similar to the one that he is in his private life.
That's the key. They want to believe it's literally too good to be true. That is fake. They want to believe it's a televangelist situation where secretly Tim Tebow is doing something that takes down this too good to be true, good guy, wholesome Christian image. I mean, that would be their favorite story that came along in quite some time. But you had more interaction with Tim than I have. I've had some through our ESPN employment, and I've never seen a crack in the facade. I've never seen that it is fake in any way. So they'll have to keep holding their breath on that.